Just the back and forth momentum flop, and there's a big rock. Here comes Romero with a pull counter.
There we go. We have a champion, ladies and gentlemen.
What's good, y'all? Romero17 here, and today I'm going to be helping y'all with how to manage your stamina on UFC 5 and how to also learn how to gas out your opponents on UFC 5. On top of this video, we'll also have another video coming out on how to work the body. So stay tuned to that coming out later this week to help you guys rack up some wins over on online rank championships. So let's get over to start the video. So before we start talking about short-term and long-term stamina, we're going to explain the stamina floor. What's the stamina floor? The stamina floor is the lowest you can reduce your stamina to by throwing a certain type of strike. Each strike has a different stamina floor. So for example, for straight punches, the straight punch has the highest stamina floor. If you only throw straight punches, you will only drain your stamina to a minimal level. If your stamina happens to be below that level, throwing straight punches will still allow your stamina to regenerate to that level. What does that mean? Obviously, if I throw and I land, that's going to be my stamina use right there. It's not going to be too heavy. If I throw and then he slips it, obviously it's going to cost me a little bit, but we're going to cover that when it comes to the short term and long term, and of course on whips too. Hooks and uppercuts, these two strikes have a lower stamina floor than straights, but still won't allow your stamina to fully drain. So when it comes to those strikes getting slipped, they'll drain a little bit more. So hooks and whatnot, you see it's a little bit more on the short term. In terms of usage, obviously deals a little bit more damage, and that's the trade. All of the other strikes like body kicks, head kicks, spinning attacks, they cost a lot more when it comes to the stamina floor. So if you are whiffing those strikes, if you're missing and you're getting countered off of those strikes, it is going to tax you significantly more. So it is very important that when you go for these spinning attacks or larger strikes that you are very accurate with them. With that being said, we're going to talk about now stamina regeneration between rounds. So what is stamina regeneration between rounds? Essentially, your fighter will be given a fixed amount of stamina in reserve at the beginning of the fight based on your cardio rating. When a round ends, you can draw up to 50% of that stamina to use for the next round, and it will continue to deplete as the fight continues. This means if you use too much stamina in the early rounds, you won't have enough stamina left in reserve to regenerate anything of significance for the later rounds. So when we consider everything in UFC 5, when it comes to whiffs, it comes to damage, it comes to getting the damage icon and busting your opponent's nose in the middle of the round, or attacking their body and affecting their long-term stamina. All of these play a factor within how much stamina drain gets used in the pool. And of course, there's going to have to be some little bit more adjustments, in my personal opinion, with how the stamina pool works. With proper stamina management and proper damage management from what you receive from your opponent, you will be able to increase the likelihood of you winning bouts on UFC 5. So now we're going to talk about long-term stamina and short-term stamina. Long-term stamina is the entire length of the stamina meter that is above your fighter. Short-term stamina is what gets used up depending on your fighter's actions on the feet or whether they are on the ground. So if I have Peter Yan here on the feet and I have him whiff a 1-2-3, he's going to be using a lot more stamina there because he's whiffing the strikes. If he lands flush, he's going to be using the least amount of stamina possible because he is landing flush on the said fighter and landing damage. Now, if I were to block this combination, it's still going to cost a little bit more stamina than if he were to land flush, but he's still not using that much stamina. Now, what happens if I start to use some defensive actions, like say a back lunge, or if I start to go using head movement? If I start to use head movement, including chaining it together with lunges, is going to help open up opportunities for me to not only attack my opponent and land more damage, but also have opportunities to attack their body and drain more of their stamina that way. Like so. If you notice, it opens up way more opportunities. And if your opponent starts to throw past the 50% mark, like let's say we have Peter Yan throw, notice there's an extra tax that happens after 50%, and that's generally where you want your opponent to mess up and throw. So if I bait and they keep throwing the combination afterwards, this is no good for their long-term stamina. And in those windows of opportunity, if I'm already followed up with my counters and I'm reading what combination he's throwing, I'm more likely to win trades because of this action. When it comes to the ground, depending on how dominant the position is would affect how much of your long-term stamina gets affected when you are transitioning out of that position. So if I am transitioning from a dominant position like back mount, you'll notice that if I go and I transition to full mount, As Peter Yan, I lose a lot more short-term stamina because I'm conceding into a different position. I'm going to be showing you guys the hierarchy of positions for the offensive person, and I'm going to be showing you the best positions for the person on bottom. Ideally, it's similar to how the jiu-jitsu flow chart works. So if you're looking for the mount, the back, any top position really is going to be more ideal for you as a top player. But if you're the person on bottom, you want to look to try to recover guard, and you especially want to look to try to recover full guard. Some fighters do have access to submissions from the bottom positions other than full guard, like say from half guard. Some of them will have guard, some of them will have kimuras, heel hooks, and denials there can be absolutely key for you to get your stamina going and attacking the submission from those positions. But that's going to be it for the ground for now. Another huge thing with stamina that comes into play when you're trying to manage your stamina accordingly when it comes to striking is depending on the side that you are throwing your strikes from. If you're throwing from your lead leg side, which is not necessarily the power side, those cost less stamina. Actions like lead leg kicks, lead body kicks, lead head kicks, they cost a little bit less than the bigger action moves from the rear leg side. Obviously, the rear power side has more chances to do more damage off of counters, but everything from the lead side does less stamina drain. Don't believe me? Well, look on the whiffs here, right? If I whiff a jab versus whiffing a cross, if I whiff a lead hook versus whiffing a rear hook, there's a little bit more drain on the rear side of strikes. So keep that in mind when you're striking on UFC 5. Before we end this video, keep in mind, just because somebody has low stamina, it does not mean they're not going to be doing damage. Otherwise, we wouldn't have great knockouts like Derek Lewis pulling off magic out of his ass last second in fights, right? So keep in mind, you still have to be aware of your head health. You still have to be aware of your body health. You have to be aware of just taking damage in general. It's a very, very important thing. We're going to have the block system video as well as how to work the body efficiently on UFC 5 dropping this week. Remember, short-term stamina does not mean you're guaranteed to win every single trade, right? If he has low short-term stamina and my head health is low, it does not mean I can just trade willy-nilly. It's important for me to time my counters accordingly, punish my opponent when they are making those mistakes, or know what I'm going to do with whatever game plan that I do have. Regeneration 17, I appreciate all of you. Much love and take care, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'm out.